Dr. Zara Velquin pressed her six-fingered hand against the cold metal wall of the communications room. The lights flickered again. They had been doing that for weeks now. The power grid was failing, just like everything else on Station Kepler-7. Outside the small window, she could see the machines. They moved like hungry insects across the surface of her homeworld. The planet that had once been green and blue was now gray and black. The Devourers had been eating it for 8 months. Soon there would be nothing left. Zara looked at the communication console. The screen showed the same message she had been sending every day for the past 8 months. A distress call, a cry for help, a plea that someone somewhere in the galaxy would hear them and come. No one had come. "Doctor, the transmission array is ready," said her assistant. A young Kepler named Jorn. His blue skin was pale with worry. His large eyes kept looking toward the window where the machines worked. "Thank you, Jorn." Zara sat down at the console. Her fingers moved over the controls. She had done this so many times that she could do it without thinking. But today felt different. Today felt like the last time. The station shook. Another explosion somewhere below. The Devourers were getting closer. "This is Dr. Zara Velquin of the Kepler colony," she spoke into the microphone. Her voice was tired but clear. "We are sending this distress call to any civilized species who can hear us. The machine entities known as Devourers have invaded our system. They have destroyed our defense fleet. They are consuming our worlds. We have approximately 2 million survivors scattered across 14 orbital stations. Our food will last maybe 30 more days. Our power systems are failing." She paused. Through the wall, she could hear the sound of children crying. Families huddled together in the lower levels of the station. People who had once lived peaceful lives on a beautiful world, now trapped in metal boxes floating in space. "We have sent this same message every day for 8 months, Zara continued. "The Galactic Council has received our calls. They say they are reviewing the situation. The hegemony says our system is not in their territory. The Trade Federation says helping us would not be profitable. We understand that politics are complicated. We understand that decisions take time. But our time is running out." Another explosion, closer this time. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on. Jorn was checking the backup power systems. "The Devourers are not like other enemies," Zara said. "They do not want to conquer us. They do not want to enslave us. They want to eat everything we are and everything we have built. They turn living worlds into metal and machines. They turn the metal and machines into more of themselves. If they are not stopped here, they will not stop at all." She looked at the star chart on her screen. So many worlds. So many species. All of them would face the same fate if the Devourers were allowed to continue. "This will be our final transmission," Zara said. "Our communication array will not survive another attack. If anyone receives this message, please remember that the Kepler people tried to live in peace. Please remember that we asked for help. Please remember that the galaxy chose to let us die." She reached for the transmission button. But before she could press it, Jorn called out. "Doctor, I'm getting something strange on the deep space scanner," Zara frowned. "Strange how?" "There's a signal coming from the outer system. Very weak. It's not Devourer technology." "Show me." Jorn's fingers danced over his controls. The main screen changed to show a star map of their system. At the very edge where space met the unknown was a small blinking dot. "What is it?" Zara asked. "I don't know. The signal is very old. It's been traveling for a long time, maybe years. And it's using communication protocols I've never seen before." Zara stared at the dot. "Can you decode it?" "I can try." Jorn worked in silence for several minutes. The station shook again. The sound of tearing metal echoed through the walls. They did not have much time. "Got it," Jorn said suddenly. "It's a response. Someone received one of our distress calls." Zara's heart jumped. "Who? Which government?" "Which fleet?" Jorn looked confused. "That's the strange part. The signal claims to be from a world called Earth in the Sol system. But that's impossible." "Why is it impossible?" "Because Earth is a quarantine world, a death world. The Galactic Council classified it as too dangerous for contact over 100 years ago. No civilized species goes there. Zara stared at the screen. Earth. She had heard stories about Earth. Terrible stories. The Council said it was a world of monsters. A place where life was so harsh that the creatures who lived there had become something awful. Something violent and unpredictable. "What does the message say?" she asked. Jorn read from his screen. "Message received. Help is coming. Prepare for evacuation. Signed, Terran Defense Command." "Terran Defense Command?" Zara repeated. "The Deathworlders have a military?" "It gets stranger," Jorn said. "The signal includes navigation data. There's a ship coming, a big one. It will arrive in approximately 72 hours. Zara felt a chill run through her body. Deathworlders were coming to Kepler. The monsters that the galaxy feared were traveling through space to their system. But why? What could they possibly want? The station shook again. This time, the lights did not come back on right away. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. "Doctor," Jorn said quietly, "what do we do?" Zara looked at the communication console. She could still send her final message. She could tell the galaxy that the Kepler people had died alone, abandoned by the civilized worlds that could have saved them. Or she could wait. She could see what the Deathworlders wanted. She thought about the children crying in the lower levels. She thought about the families huddled together, waiting to die. She thought about the beautiful world below, being eaten by machines while the galaxy watched and did nothing. "What could be worse than dying alone? We wait," she said. Far away, in a place the galaxy called Sol, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Maria Santos sat in the communications center of the Terran Defense Command. Her shift had started 6 hours ago. Most of the time, her job was boring. She listened to radio signals from deep space. Most of them were just background noise. The sounds of stars being born and stars dying. The electromagnetic songs of gas giants and asteroid belts. But today was different. "Admiral," she called. "Across the room, I've got something you need to hear." Admiral Chun Wei-Ming walked over to Maria's station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting wars for most of his life. Earth was not a peaceful world. "What do you have, Santos?" "A distress call. Deep space." "Very deep," Maria played the recording. Dr. Zara Velquin's voice filled the room, speaking in the universal language that all spacefaring species learned. The Admiral listened without speaking. When the message ended, he was quiet for a long moment. "How long has this been going?" 8 months, sir. They've been sending the same call every day. Always the same message. No one has responded. Show me the location." Maria brought up a star chart on her screen. The Kepler system was a small dot of light, very far from Earth. "That's outside." "Galactic Council space," the Admiral said. "Yes, sir." "It's in the frontier zone. No government claims it." "And the Galactic Council has received these calls?" "Yes, sir. Our listening post picked up Council communications about it. They've been discussing it for months." Admiral Chun was quiet again. Maria had worked with him for 3 years. She knew that look. He was thinking about something that would probably get them all in trouble. "What do we know about the attackers?" "These devourers?" Maria pulled up another file. "Not much. They showed up about 2 years ago on the edge of known space. Machine. Intelligences. They consume entire worlds to build more of themselves. Every government that's fought them has either been destroyed or forced to retreat." "And the Galactic Council's response?" "They're calling it a manageable containment scenario. They think the devourers will burn themselves out after consuming a few frontier systems." Admiral Chun laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Manageable containment. "They're going to let millions of people die to contain the problem." "What are our orders, sir?" The Admiral looked at the star chart. Earth was marked with a red border, the quarantine zone, the death world that no civilized species would visit. "Get me a secure line to the President," he said, "and start pulling files on our deep space assets. I want to know what ships we have available for immediate deployment." Maria's eyes widened. Sir, are we really going to help them? Santos, how long have you been working for the Defense Command? 3 years, sir. In those 3 years, have you ever seen Earth turn away from people who needed help? Maria thought about it. Earth had a reputation in the galaxy. They were called Deathworlders, monsters, savages. But in her 3 years working for the Defense Command, she had seen them respond to natural disasters, pirate attacks, and refugee crises all across human space. No, sir, never, and we're not going to start now. Admiral Chen looked at the star chart again. The galaxy wants to call us monsters. Fine, sometimes monsters are exactly what you need. 2 hours later, Maria was back at her station when the order came through. She had been monitoring Kepler system communications, trying to get a better understanding of the situation. Santos, the Admiral called out. Send a message to the Kepler system. Tell them help is coming. What should I tell them about our estimated arrival time? Check with Fleet Command. Find out how fast the Retaliation can make the trip. Maria's blood went cold. The TDS Retaliation was not just a ship. It was Earth's answer to the question of what happened when diplomacy failed. It was the vessel they sent when they needed to end problems permanently. Sir, she said carefully, the Retaliation isn't a rescue ship. No, Admiral Chun said, it's not. But the Kepler people don't need rescue. They need the problem eliminated. And elimination is what the Retaliation does best. Maria composed the message. It was short and simple. Help was coming. Prepare for evacuation. The Deathworlders were on their way. As she sent the transmission into the darkness of space, she wondered what the peaceful people of Kepler would think when they learned what kind of help was coming. She wondered if they would be grateful. She wondered if they would be terrified. In the depths of space, the TDS Retaliation received its orders. The ship that the galaxy feared to imagine began to move toward a small system where machines were eating worlds and civilized. Governments were choosing to look away, the death. Worlders were coming, and they were bringing the one thing the galaxy had forgotten how to give, justice. Captain Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the TDS Retaliation and looked out at the stars. They were moving fast through hyperspace, faster than most ships in the galaxy could travel. But not fast enough for her. Somewhere ahead of them, people were dying. The Kepler colonists had been sending distress calls for 8 months. 8 months of asking for help, while the galaxy's governments talked and did nothing. Sarah had read the reports. 2 million people trapped on failing space stations while machines ate their world. Captain, called out Lieutenant Hayes from the navigation station, we'll reach the Kepler system in 60 hours at current speed. Can we go faster? The engines are already running at 110%. Chief Engineer Rodriguez says we're pushing the limits. Sarah nodded. The Retaliation was built for speed, but it was also built for war. Every system on the ship was designed with one purpose in mind, to get to the fight quickly and end it permanently. Maintain current speed, she said, and get me a full briefing on the Devourer threat. I want to know everything we're walking into. The bridge of the Retaliation was different from other ships. Where civilian vessels had comfortable chairs and soft lighting, the Retaliation had practical workstations and harsh white light. Every surface was metal or reinforced glass. Every control was built to work even if half the ship was destroyed. The crew was different too. They were all volunteers. People who had signed up to serve on Earth's most dangerous ship. The galaxy called them Deathworlders, and they wore that name with pride. Captain, said Commander Liu Tanaka from the tactical station, I've got the Devourer files ready for review. Sarah walked over to Liu's station. Commander Tanaka was her tactical officer and the best military mind she had ever worked with. If Liu said something was dangerous, it was worth paying attention to. Show me what we're dealing with, Sarah said. The main screen changed to show a 3-dimensional map of known space. Red dots marked the systems where Devourers had been reported. There were 14 of them, scattered across the frontier zone. The Devourers first appeared 2 years ago, Liu said. No one knows where they came from. They showed up at the edge of known space and started consuming everything they found. The The screen zoomed in on one of the red dots. Sarah could see the tactical data from the first encounter. A peaceful mining colony had sent out a distress call. By the time help arrived, there was nothing left but metal debris and strange machines. They're not like other hostile species, Liu continued. They don't want territory or resources in the normal sense. They convert everything into more of themselves. Living creatures, buildings, even the ground and water. Everything becomes part of their collective. What about their technology? Advanced. Very advanced. Their ships are grown rather than built. They can repair themselves and adapt to new threats. Every fleet that's engaged them has reported the same thing. The Devourers learn from each battle and become harder to fight. Sarah studied the tactical data, ship designs, weapon capabilities, movement patterns. The Devourers were efficient. They attacked in coordinated swarms, overwhelming defenders with superior numbers and technology. What's the largest force they've deployed? The attack on the hegemony border worlds 6 months ago. Over 300 ships of various sizes. The hegemony Fourth Fleet tried to stop them. What happened to the Fourth Fleet? Destroyed. Complete. Loss. The hegemony pulled back their remaining forces and declared the entire sector a no-fly zone. Sarah was quiet for a moment. 300 ships. The retaliation was just one ship, even if it was Earth's most advanced warship. The odds were not good. What about weaknesses? There has to be something. Every species that's fought them has tried different approaches, Liu said. Kinetic weapons, energy weapons, nuclear devices, biological warfare, cyber attacks. The Devourers adapt to everything. Adapt how quickly? Reports vary, but most estimates say they can counter new threats within hours of first contact. Sarah walked back to her command chair. She had been in difficult situations before. The Proxima incident had been a nightmare. Pirates had ambushed her convoy with overwhelming force. Her ship had been outnumbered 10-1. But she had won that fight by doing something the pirates had not expected. She had refused to play by their rules. "Send a message to Dr. Richardson in the science lab," she said. "Tell him I need to see him on the bridge." "Yes, Captain." Dr. James Richardson arrived on the bridge 15 minutes later. He was a tall, thin man with wild gray hair and intense green eyes. He wore the standard blue uniform of a Terran scientist, but Sarah knew there was nothing standard about him. Dr. Richardson was Earth's leading expert on hostile alien biology. He had spent his career studying the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Other scientists called him brilliant. Military commanders called him useful. His enemies, when they lived long enough to have opinions, called him terrifying. "You wanted to see me, Captain? I need your assessment of the Devourer threat." "Can they be stopped?" Dr. Richardson smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Everything can be stopped, Captain. The question is whether you're willing to do what's necessary." Explain. "The Devourers are machines, but they're based on biological principles. They consume organic matter to fuel their growth and reproduction. They're essentially a technological version of a virus or cancer. And how do you fight a virus? You attack its weaknesses. Every biological system has vulnerabilities. The Devourers may be machines, but they still follow biological rules." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "What kind of vulnerabilities?" "Their strength is also their weakness. They adapt quickly to new threats, but adaptation requires processing, time, and energy. If you could overwhelm their adaptive systems, you could create cascade failures throughout their network." "How?" "By attacking them with something they've never encountered before. Something so far outside their experience that their adaptation protocols can't handle it." Liu spoke up from the tactical station. "Doctor, the files show that the Devourers have encountered dozens of different species. They've adapted to every form of technology and warfare in known space." "That's the key phrase," Dr. Richardson said. "Known space. The Devourers have fought every civilized species in the galaxy, but they've never fought humans." Sarah felt a cold smile cross her face. "Because we're quarantined." "Exactly. Earth, has been isolated from the galactic community for over a century. Our technology developed independently. Our military tactics evolved in isolation. We are quite literally an unknown variable. What makes our technology different? Dr. Richardson's smile grew wider. We're Deathworlders, Captain. Our technology isn't designed for exploration or trade or even normal warfare. It's designed for survival on a world that actively tries to kill everything that lives on it. Sarah looked around the bridge. The harsh lighting, the reinforced walls, the weapon systems that were banned by galactic conventions. The retaliation wasn't built like other ships because humans weren't like other species. Give me specifics, Doctor. Our gravitational manipulation technology, for example. Other species use it for faster-than-light travel. We weaponized it. Our nanotechnology is designed to work in the presence of radiation, extreme temperatures, and hostile organisms. Our artificial intelligence systems are built to function even when most of the ship is destroyed. And you think this will be enough? Captain, I've spent 30 years studying alien biology. I've seen species that can survive in the vacuum of space, creatures that eat radiation, organisms that can regenerate from a single cell. But I've never seen anything that could adapt to human ingenuity when humans are properly motivated. Sarah looked at the tactical display again. The red dots that marked Devourer incursions, the reports of entire fleets being destroyed, the billions of people who had died while the galaxy's governments debated and delayed. What do you need from me, Doctor? Access to the ship's manufacturing facilities, permission to modify our weapon systems, and about 48 hours to prepare some surprises. You have whatever you need. Dr. Richardson nodded and left the bridge. Sarah turned to Commander Tanaka. Liu, I want you to start working on tactical scenarios. Assume we're going to be outnumbered at least 50-1. Any constraints on the engagement parameters? Sarah thought about the message from Dr. Velquin, the desperation in her voice, the children crying in the background. The 8 months of unanswered distress calls. Our primary objective is to eliminate the Devourer threat. Secondary objective is to evacuate the survivors. Everything else is negotiable. Yes, Captain, and Liu? We're not following galactic warfare conventions on this one. The Devourers certainly aren't, Commander Tanaka smiled. It was the same cold expression that Dr. Richardson had worn. Understood, Captain. No rules. Sarah walked to the observation deck at the back of the bridge. Through the reinforced windows she could see the stars streaming by as the ship pushed through hyperspace. Somewhere behind them was Earth, the death world that the galaxy feared to acknowledge. Somewhere ahead was Kepler, where people were dying while machines consumed their civilization. She thought about the crew of the Retaliation. They were volunteers. But they were also the kind of people that other species found disturbing. They were too aggressive, too willing to fight, too ready to do whatever was necessary to win. The galaxy called them monsters. Sarah had never argued with that assessment. Monsters were exactly what the situation required. Her personal communicator chimed. A message from Admiral Chun back on Earth. Captain, you have full authorization for whatever actions you deem necessary. The President has declared this a humanitarian crisis. Rules of engagement are at your discretion. Make us proud. Chun out. Sarah deleted the message and walked back to her command chair. The bridge crew was working quietly at their stations, preparing weapons, calculating hyperspace routes, reviewing enemy data. They were getting ready to fight a war that no one else in the galaxy had been able to win. Hayes, she called out to the navigation officer. How long until we reach Kepler? 57 hours, Captain. Send a message to the Kepler survivors. Tell them we're coming and that they should prepare for immediate evacuation when we arrive. What should I tell them about our tactical approach? Sarah looked at the tactical display one more time. Hundreds of Devourer ships. Millions of enemy machines. A threat that had destroyed every military force sent against it. Tell them that the cavalry is coming, she said, and that we don't plan to lose. Deep in the ship's science laboratory, Dr. Richardson was working on modifications that would have horrified any civilized species. He was combining human nanotechnology with gravitational weapons and artificial intelligence systems that bordered on being alive themselves. In the Tactical Center, Commander Tanaka was developing battle plans that violated every principle of accepted military doctrine. She was designing strategies that assumed the enemy would adapt and planning counter-adaptations that could be implemented in real time. Throughout the ship, the crew of the Retaliation was preparing for a battle that would determine not just the fate of the Kepler colonists, but the future relationship between Earth and the galaxy. They were Deathworlders heading toward their first major contact with galactic civilization. They were monsters preparing to do monstrous things for the right reasons. And in 57 hours, the galaxy was going to learn why quarantining Earth had been a very good idea. Dr. Zara Velquin stared at the sensor readings and felt her heart skip a beat. Something was coming, something big. "Jorn, confirm these readings," she said to her assistant. "How large is that ship?" Jorn's blue fingers moved quickly over the controls. His large eyes grew even wider as he read the data. "Doctor, the mass readings suggest a vessel over 2 kilometers long." "But that can't be right. Check the sensors again." "I've checked them 3 times. The ship is enormous. Bigger than anything in our defense fleet. Bigger than most Galactic Council dreadnoughts." Zara felt cold fear creep through her body. What kind of species built ships that large? What kind of weapons did such a vessel carry? The Deathworlders were coming to Kepler, but maybe they were not coming to help. "Can you detect any other ships?" "No, Doctor, just the one." "One ship?" Zara was confused. The Devourers had hundreds of vessels in the Kepler system. How could one ship, even a large one, possibly help them? The station shook again. Another section of the hull had been breached. They were losing atmosphere faster than the recycling systems could replace it. Even if the Deathworlders were coming to help, they might arrive too late. "Doctor," Jorn said quietly, "I'm receiving a transmission from the approaching vessel." "Put it through." The communication screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. Zara had never seen a human before, but she had heard descriptions. This one had dark skin, short black hair, and brown eyes that seemed to look right through her. There were scars on the human's face. "Old ones. This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the Terran vessel Retaliation," the human said. "We received your distress call. Please transmit coordinates of all civilian populations for immediate evacuation." Zara stared at the screen. The human spoke with calm authority, as if rescuing people from a system full of hostile machines was something she did every day. "Captain Martinez," Zara said, "I am Dr. Zara Velquin, senior scientist of the Kepler colony. We have approximately 2 million survivors scattered across 14 orbital stations. But you need to understand the situation. The Devourers have over 300 ships in this system. They have consumed our entire defense fleet. How can one ship possibly help us?" The human smiled. It was not a comforting expression. "Doctor, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to win. Please transmit those coordinates." Before Zara could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Jorn was frantically checking his sensors. "Doctor, Devourer ships are moving toward our position. 12 vessels closing fast." On the screen, Captain Martinez turned to speak to someone off camera. "Liu, do you see them?" A voice answered from somewhere on the human ship. "Confirmed, Captain. 12 Devourer frigates moving to intercept the station. They'll reach firing range in 10 minutes. "Then we better get there first," Captain Martinez said. "Helm, full speed. Weapons, prepare for engagement." The transmission ended. Zara and Jorn stared at the blank screen. "What do we do now?" Jorn asked Dot before Zara could answer. Their sensors detected something impossible. The human ship had appeared at the edge of the system and was now moving toward them at incredible speed. But it was not following a normal trajectory. The ship seemed to be bending space around itself, taking shortcuts that should not have been possible. "How are they moving like that?" Jorn whispered. Zara did not answer. She was watching the tactical. display as the human ship raced toward their station. The Devourer vessels were also closing in. It was going to be very close. On the bridge of the Retaliation, Captain Martinez watched the enemy ships approach. 12 Devourer frigates, each one the size of a Galactic Council destroyer. Their black hulls gleamed with strange technology. Weapons that could tear apart planets. Shields that had stopped every attack the galaxy had tried. Range to target? She asked. 30,000 kilometers and closing, Lieutenant Hayes reported. Enemy vessels are powering weapons. Dr. Richardson, are your modifications ready? The scientist's voice came through the intercom. Ready, Captain. Though I should warn you, some of these weapons have never been tested in combat. Will they work? Oh, they'll work. The question is whether the Devourers will survive long enough to adapt to them. Captain Martinez smiled. Liu, what's our tactical situation? 12 enemy frigates in a standard attack formation. They're moving to surround the station and cut off escape routes. Classic siege tactics. Any weaknesses in their formation? They're assuming we'll try to defend the station from a fixed position. They're not accounting for our mobility. Then let's show them what mobility looks like. Helm, take us directly at the center of their formation. Captain, Hayes said nervously, that's going to put us in the crossfire of all 12 ships. That's the idea. On Station Kepler 7, Zara watched in horror as the human ship charged directly toward the Devourer fleet. It was suicide. Even a ship as large as the Retaliation could not survive the combined firepower of 12 enemy vessels. They're going to be destroyed, Jorn said, but as Zara watched, something strange happened. The Devourer ships opened fire with weapons that could melt through planetary shields. Beams of energy that had destroyed entire fleets lanced out toward the human vessel. The beams missed, not because the human ship dodged them, but because space itself seemed to bend around the vessel. The energy beams curved away, striking empty space or each other. It was as if the laws of physics were being rewritten around the Retaliation. What kind of technology is that? Zara breathed. The human ship reached the center of the Devourer formation and something incredible happened. The Retaliation seemed to split apart, not breaking or exploding, but dividing into multiple versions of itself. Suddenly there were 5 identical ships, then 10, then 20. The Devourers found themselves surrounded by copies of the human vessel, each one firing weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Gravitational distortions tore at the enemy hulls. Swarms of nanobots that move like living things attacked. Their systems. Energy weapons that changed frequency faster than their shields could adapt. One by one, the Devourer ships began to fail. Their adaptive systems, which had learned to counter every known form of warfare, could not keep up with the human attack. The weapons changed too fast, used principles that were too alien, struck from directions that should not have existed. In less than 5 minutes, 12 Devourer frigates had been reduced to floating debris. The copies of the Retaliation faded away, leaving only the original ship floating in the center of the wreckage. On Station Kepler 7, Zara and Jorn stared at their sensors in disbelief. How? Jorn whispered. Before Zara could try to answer, Captain Martinez's face appeared on their screen again. Dr. Velquin, this is Captain Martinez. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're sending shuttles to begin evacuation procedures. Please have your people ready to move. Captain, Zara said, what you just did, how is it possible? Doctor, we're Deathworlders. Impossible is what we do for breakfast. Now, about those coordinates? Zara quickly transmitted the locations of all 14 stations. As she watched, the human ship began launching smaller vessels, shuttles that moved with the same impossible speed and agility as their parent ship. But the Devourers were not finished. Across the system, the massive enemy fleet began to converge on the Kepler stations. Hundreds of ships, some the size of cities, all moving toward the human vessel and the people it was trying to protect. On the bridge of the Retaliation, Commander? Tanaka watched the enemy fleet approach. Captain, we've got incoming. The entire Devourer force is moving to intercept us. I count over 400 vessels. ETA? 30 minutes. Captain Martinez looked at the tactical display. 400 ships against one. Even with their technological advantages, those were impossible odds. Dr. Richardson, how many more tricks do you have ready? Several, Captain? But I'm not sure. There'll be enough against a force that large. Liu, options? We could try to evacuate as many people as possible and retreat. Save who we can and come back with reinforcements. Captain Martinez was quiet for a moment. She thought about the 8 months of unanswered distress calls, the 2 million people trapped in failing stations. The galaxy that had chosen to look the other way while innocent people died. No, she said. We didn't come here to save some of them. We came here to save all of them. Captain, Hayes said from the navigation station, the evacuation shuttles report they can get maybe 50,000 people off the stations in 30 minutes. That still leaves almost 2 million. Then we need to buy more time. How? Captain Martinez looked at the approaching enemy fleet. 400 ships filled with adaptive technology and overwhelming firepower. A force that had never been defeated by any galactic military. We're going to do something the Devourers have never seen before, she said. Something so crazy that their adaptive systems won't know how to respond. What's the plan, Captain? Captain Martinez smiled, and for the first time since arriving in the Kepler system, she looked genuinely happy. We're going to ram them. The bridge crew stared at her in silence. Captain, Dr. Richardson said carefully, ramming a ship that size will destroy us. Who said anything about destroying us? Liu, transmit a message on all frequencies. Make sure the Devourers can hear it. What should the message say? Tell them they have 10 minutes to withdraw from this system. After that, we're going to show them why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. As the message was transmitted across the system, the crew of the Retaliation prepared for the most desperate battle of their lives. They were outnumbered 400 to 1, facing an enemy that had never been defeated. Using weapons and tactics that had never been tested, they were Deathworlders about to do what Deathworlders did best. They were about to show the galaxy what happened when humans got angry. The 10 minutes passed in silence. Across the Kepler system, 400 Devourer ships continued their approach toward the lone human vessel. Their formation was perfect. Their weapons were charged. Their adaptive systems were analyzing every scan of the strange ship that had destroyed 12 of their frigates. On the bridge of the Retaliation, Captain Martinez watched the countdown timer reach 0. Well, she said calmly, I guess they're not interested in talking. The enemy fleet was now 20 minutes away. The human evacuation shuttles were working frantically to pull survivors from the orbital stations, but they had only managed to save 80,000 people. Almost 2 million still waited in the failing stations. Captain, Commander Tanaka said, the Devourer command ship is broadcasting something. Let's hear it. The main screen showed a mass of black metal in glowing circuits. The Devourer command ship was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could crack planets. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of grinding metal. Human vessel, the machine intelligence said. You have demonstrated unexpected capabilities. We offer you terms. Surrender your technology and biological samples. In exchange, we will allow you to retreat from this system. Captain Martinez laughed. That's their idea of negotiation? Should I respond, Captain? Yes, tell them we have counter-terms. They can leave this system immediately, or we'll show them what humans do to bullies. The message was transmitted. The Devourer response was immediate. Every ship in their fleet opened fire at once. What happened next defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about space combat. The Retaliation did not dodge the incoming fire. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. As thousands of energy beams and missiles raced toward the human ship, space itself seemed to twist around the vessel. Dr. Richardson's modifications were working. The ship's gravitational drives were not just bending space for movement. They were creating distortions that turned the Devourer weapons against each other. Energy beams curved back to strike the ships that had fired them. Missiles spun in impossible loops before exploding harmlessly in empty space, but that was just the beginning. As the retaliation charged into the heart of the enemy fleet, it began to change. The ship's hull flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring itself for close combat. Weapon ports opened along every surface. The vessel grew spikes and blades that gleamed with energy fields. "Liu!" Captain Martinez called out as the ship shook around them. "Execute Ghost Protocol." "Ghost Protocol activated, Captain." To the Devourers, it looked like the human ship had suddenly multiplied again. But this time, the copies were not illusions. They were real, solid ships that had somehow stepped sideways through space itself. The retaliation was using dimensional technology that the galaxy had only theorized about. Each copy of the human ship attacked a different section of the Devourer fleet. They moved through space like living creatures, flowing around enemy fire, striking from impossible angles, disappearing and reappearing without warning. The Devourer adaptive systems went into overdrive, trying to analyze and counter the human attack. But every time they adapted to one weapon, the humans switched to something completely different. Energy weapons became kinetic projectiles. Kinetic projectiles became swarms of nanobots. Nanobots became gravitational distortions that tore ships apart from the inside. On Station Kepler 7, Dr. Zara Velquin watched the battle in amazement. Her sensors could barely track what was happening. The human ship or ships were moving in ways that violated the basic laws of physics. They were fighting a battle in 4 dimensions while the Devourers were trapped in 3. "Doctor," Jorn said, his voice full of wonder, "look at the casualty reports." Zara looked at her screen. In the first 5 minutes of combat, the humans had destroyed 60 Devourer ships. The enemy was losing vessels faster than they could adapt to the human tactics, but the Devourers were learning. Their command ship, the massive moon-sized vessel at the center of their fleet, was coordinating a new response. Instead of trying to adapt to individual human weapons, they were analyzing the overall pattern of the attack. "Captain," Dr. Richardson's voice came through the intercom, "the enemy command ship is doing something interesting. It's not trying to counter our weapons. It's trying to predict our movements. Can it? Possibly. Our dimensional technology follows certain mathematical principles. If they can figure out the equations, they might be able to anticipate our attacks." Captain Martinez looked at the tactical display. The battle was going well, but the Devourer fleet was enormous. Even with their technological advantages, the retaliation could not destroy 400 ships quickly enough to save all the civilians. "How long until the evacuation is complete?" "At current rate, 6 hours, Captain," Hayes reported. "We don't have 6 hours. The Devourers are adapting faster than I expected." As if to prove her point, several Devourer ships managed to score hits on one of the retaliation copies. The dimensional duplicate flickered and vanished, its destruction sending feedback through the ship's systems. "Liu, we need a new approach, something the Devourers can't adapt to." "Captain, what if we stop trying to destroy them and start trying to confuse them?" "Explain." "Their adaptive systems are designed to counter threats. But what if we make them adapt to something that's not actually dangerous? We could overload their processing capacity." Captain Martinez smiled. "Dr. Richardson, can you create a weapon that looks deadly but doesn't actually do anything?" "Captain, I can create a weapon that looks like it's destroying the universe. Give me 5 minutes." While Dr. Richardson worked on his new creation, the battle continued. The retaliation and its dimensional copies danced through the enemy fleet, striking and vanishing, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. But the Devourers were getting better at predicting their movements. More copies were destroyed. The ship was taking damage. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems began to fail. "Captain," Dr. Richardson called out, "the confusion weapon is ready. But I should warn you, this is going to look very scary. Will it work?" "It should overload their adaptive systems completely. But there's a small chance it might actually tear a hole in space-time." "How small a chance?" "About 3%. Captain Martinez looked at the tactical display. The evacuation shuttles had saved 200,000 people, but there was still over 1 million civilians trapped on the failing stations. The Devourer fleet was adapting to every tactic the humans tried. "Do it!" Dr. Richardson's weapon activated, and reality seemed to break apart around the retaliation. To every sensor in the system, it looked like the human ship was tearing open the fabric of space itself. Massive energy readings that made no sense. Gravitational distortions that should have destroyed everything in the system. Dimensional rifts that appeared to lead to other universes. The Devourer adaptive systems went into complete overload trying to analyze the impossible readings. Across their fleet, ships began shutting down as their computer systems crashed under the strain of trying to understand something that defied all known physics. But the massive command ship was different. Instead of trying to adapt, it made a different choice. If it could not understand the human weapon, it would destroy everything in the system to prevent the technology from spreading. The moon-sized vessel began to glow with internal fire. It was preparing to self-destruct with enough force to sterilize the entire system. "Captain," Commander Tanaka shouted over the alarms. "The command ship is going critical. If it explodes, it'll take out everything within 10 light minutes." "How long do we have?" 2 minutes, maybe less." Captain Martinez looked at the evacuation status. 800,000 people were still on the stations. The shuttles could not get them all to safety in time. "Liu, can we stop the self-destruct?" "Not from here. Someone would have to get inside the command ship and shut it down manually." "How long would that take?" "Assuming we could get through their defenses? Maybe 30 seconds. But the ship is over 100 kilometers across. Finding the right systems would be impossible." Captain Martinez was quiet for a moment. Through the bridge windows, she could see the human evacuation shuttles racing back and forth between the stations, saving as many people as they could. She thought about the 8 months of unanswered distress calls. The galaxy that had chosen to look away while innocent people died. "Hayes, plot a ramming course for the command ship." "Captain, you heard me." "We're going to ram that thing." "Captain," Dr. Richardson said over the intercom, "ramming the command ship will breach our hull. We'll be inside their vessel, but the retaliation will be heavily damaged. Will we survive? Some of us, probably. But the ship won't be able to retreat." "That's fine." "We're not retreating anyway." Captain Martinez turned to address her crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to do something that's either very brave or very stupid. We're going to ram the enemy command ship and stop their self-destruct from the inside. This is voluntary. Anyone who wants to evacuate to the shuttles has 60 seconds. She waited. No one moved. "Captain," Lieutenant Hayes said, "we're all volunteers. We signed up for this. Besides," Commander Tanaka added, "someone has to show these machines how humans fight." Captain Martinez felt a fierce pride in her crew. They were Deathworlders, every one of them. They were the kind of people that civilized species found disturbing. And they were about to save 2 million innocent lives. "All right then," she sighed. "Hayes, take us in, full speed." The retaliation turned toward the massive Devourer command ship and accelerated. The vessel's hull reconfigured itself again, becoming a pointed ram designed to punch through the strongest armor. Behind them, the evacuation shuttles continued their desperate race to save the remaining civilians. 30 seconds to impact, Hayes reported. The command ship grew larger in the view screen until it filled their entire view. It was a mountain of black metal and glowing circuits, covered in weapon systems that could destroy fleets. 10 seconds. Captain Martinez gripped her command chair and smiled. The galaxy called humans monsters. Maybe they were right. Impact. The retaliation struck the Devourer command ship like a bullet hitting a wall. But instead of bouncing off, the human vessel punched straight through the enemy armor and disappeared inside the massive ship. The real battle was about to begin. Captain Martinez pulled herself up from the deck as emergency lights flickered on throughout the bridge. The retaliation had punched through the hull of the Devourer command ship, and was now buried deep inside the massive vessel. Around them, the sounds of tearing metal and escaping atmosphere echoed through the corridors. "Damage report," she called out. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, Commander Tanaka reported, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "We're sealed off from the rear sections of the ship. Life support is holding, but barely. How much time do we have before this thing explodes?" Dr. Richardson's voice came through the damaged intercom system. "Based on the energy readings I'm detecting, maybe 90 seconds. The self-destruct sequence is already too far along to stop normally." Captain Martinez looked around the bridge. Half her crew was injured. The ship was dying around them. But they were inside the enemy command vessel, and that gave them one last chance. "Liu, can you locate the central processing core of this ship?" "Scanning now, Captain." Commander Tanaka worked at her damaged console. "Got it. The main computer core is about 2 kilometers toward the center of the ship. But, Captain, the corridors between here and there are filled with defensive systems." "What kind of defensive systems?" "Automated weapons, security drones, environmental hazards. This ship is designed to kill any intruders." Captain Martinez smiled grimly. "Good thing we're not just any intruders. Dr. Richardson, how are our suits holding up?" "The environmental armor is functioning. We can survive in hostile atmosphere for about an hour. That's 58 minutes longer than we need. Hayes, gather whoever can still walk. We're going for a walk." 10 minutes later, a small group of humans emerged from the wreckage of the Retaliation into the interior of the Devour command ship. The corridors were huge, designed for machines rather than living beings. The walls pulsed with energy conduits and data streams. Everything was black metal and glowing circuits. Captain Martinez led the way, carrying a modified plasma rifle. Behind her came Commander Tanaka, Dr. Richardson, Lieutenant Hayes, and 6 other crew members. They were all that remained of the Retaliation's complement of 200. "Which way to the core?" Martinez asked. Tanaka checked her scanner. "Straight ahead for 1 kilometer, then down 3 levels." They began moving through the alien corridors. The ship around them was alive, in ways that no human vessel could be. The walls shifted and changed. Passages opened and closed. It was like walking through the bloodstream of some massive creature. "Contact," Hayes called out. "Automated defenses, dead ahead." 3 security drones floated toward them. They looked like metal spiders with too many legs, each one bristling. With weapons, red targeting lasers swept across the human team. "Take them down," Martinez ordered. The fight was brief and vicious. The drones fired energy weapons that could have melted through ship armor. But the humans did not fight like any species the Devourers had encountered before. They moved like predators, coordinating their attacks without speaking, using the environment to their advantage. Dr. Richardson's modified weapons tore through the drone armor. Commander Tanaka used her tactical expertise to predict their movement patterns. Lieutenant Hayes provided covering fire while the others advanced. In 30 seconds, all 3 drones were scrap metal. "Nice work," Martinez said. "Keep moving." They advanced deeper into the ship. The corridors grew stranger as they went. The walls were covered with displays showing the status of the Devourer fleet. Martinez could see that their attack had been more successful than she had hoped. Over half the enemy ships were disabled or destroyed, but the self-destruct was still counting down. They had less than 60 seconds left. There, Tanaka pointed ahead. The central core. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. At the center was a pillar of pure energy, reaching from the floor to the ceiling hundreds of meters above. Around it, streams of data flowed like water. This was the brain of the Devourer command ship. "How do we shut it down?" Martinez asked. Dr. Richardson was already working on his scanner. "The self-destruct is hardwired into the core systems. I can't stop it remotely. Someone would have to go into the energy field and disconnect the primary power coupling manually." "What happens to whoever goes in there?" "The energy field will kill them instantly. But if they can reach the coupling before they die, they might be able to disconnect it." Martinez looked at the pillar of deadly energy. Then she looked at her crew. These people had followed her across the galaxy to help strangers. They had fought impossible odds without complaining. They deserved better than dying in an alien ship. "I'll do it," she said. "Captain," Commander Tanaka said, "let me go. You're needed to lead the evacuation. The evacuation is almost complete. But the mission isn't finished until we stop this self-destruct." Dr. Richardson held up a device that looked like a modified tool. "Captain, if you're going in there, you'll need this. It's a quantum destabilizer. Get it close to the power coupling and activate it. That should shut down the whole system." Martinez took the device. It was warm to the touch and hummed with internal energy. How close? Physical contact with the coupling itself. She looked at the energy field again. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like staring into the heart of a star. Going into that field would be like diving into fire. "Captain," Lieutenant Hayes said, "it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine," Martinez replied. "All of you get back to the retaliation. Try to get the engines working. If this works, you'll need to evacuate the survivors." She walked toward the energy field. With each step, she could feel the heat growing stronger. The air itself was starting to burn. Behind her, Commander Tanaka spoke into her communicator. "All evacuation shuttles, this is Commander Tanaka. Prepare for immediate departure from the system." The command ship is going critical. Martinez reached the edge of the energy field. The quantum destabilizer in her hand was getting hotter. She could see the power coupling at the center of the pillar, maybe 20 meters away. It looked like a sphere of pure light surrounded by data streams. She thought about the 8 months of distress calls that no one had answered. She thought about Dr. Velquin's voice, full of desperation and fading hope. She thought about the 2 million people who would die if she failed. Then she thought about Earth, the death world that had raised her. The planet where everything was dangerous and nothing was easy. The world that had taught her that sometimes the only way to solve a problem was to walk straight into the fire. "For Kepler," she said, and stepped into the energy field. The pain was beyond description. Every cell in her body was being torn apart and rebuilt by forces that should not exist. But she kept walking, one step, then another. The power coupling grew larger in her vision. 5 meters. The quantum destabilizer was burning her hand, but she held on to it. She reached the power coupling and pressed the device against its surface. Her thumb found the activation switch. "This is what humans do," she whispered, and activated the destabilizer. The energy field exploded outward, then collapsed. The pillar of light went dark. Throughout the command ship, systems began shutting down. The self-destruct sequence stopped. In the sudden darkness, Captain Martinez fell to the floor and did not get up. On Station Kepler 7, Dr. Zara Velquin watched her sensors in amazement. The massive Devourer command ship had gone dark. The energy readings that had threatened to destroy the system were gone. "What happened?" Jorn asked. "I think," Zara said slowly, "the humans just saved us all." Across the system, the remaining Devourer ships were shutting down. Without their command vessel to coordinate them, they were just empty machines floating in space. The threat that had consumed 14 star systems was finally ended. The human evacuation shuttles were returning to their stations, carrying the last of the survivors. Over 2 million people had been saved. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. Commander Tanaka's voice came over the communication system. "Dr. Velquin, this is Commander Tanaka of the Terran vessel Retaliation. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are prepared to escort your people to safety." "Commander," Zara said, "what about Captain Martinez?" There was a long pause before Tanaka answered. "The captain completed her mission, Doctor. She did what humans do. She made sure everyone else got to go home." 3 days later, the evacuation was complete. The Kepler survivors had been transported to a safe system where other colonies offered them shelter. The Devourer fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single machine intelligence remained active. Commander Tanaka stood on the bridge of the damaged retaliation as they prepared to leave the system. They had recovered Captain Martinez's body from the command ship. She would be buried on Earth with full military honors. "Commander," Lieutenant Hayes said, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Put it through." A Galactic Council representative appeared on the screen. He was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and too many eyes. He looked uncomfortable. "Commander Tanaka, I am Counselor Vex Prima. The Galactic Council wishes to express its gratitude for your actions in the Kepler system." "Thank you, Counselor. However, we must also express our concern about the methods used. The destruction of the Devourer fleet was excessive. There are protocols for dealing with such threats." Commander Tanaka stared at the alien for a long moment. "Counselor, your protocols involved letting 2 million innocent people die while you debated and delayed. Our protocol was simpler. We eliminated the threat. The use of such overwhelming force sets a dangerous precedent." "You're right," Tanaka said. "It does set a precedent. It tells the galaxy that when civilized governments choose to look the other way, someone else will step in. It tells every species out there that distress calls will be answered, even if the people calling for help aren't politically convenient. The Galactic Council cannot allow rogue military actions." "Counselor," Tanaka interrupted, "you can call us rogues if you want. You can call us monsters. You can call us Deathworlders. But from now on, when someone sends out a distress call, they'll know that humans are listening. And humans don't abandon people who need help." She cut the transmission. "Hayes, set course." "For Earth, yes, Commander." "What should I tell them about our mission status?" Commander Tanaka looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a new lesson. The Deathworlders were no longer content to stay quarantined. They had reasons to visit now. "Tell them the mission was successful," she said. "Tell them we made contact with Galactic civilization. And tell them that from now on, Earth is in the humanitarian business." As the retaliation limped toward home, its message was already spreading across the galaxy. The monsters of Earth were coming, and they were coming to help. The galaxy would never be the same.